Okay, how to practice Buddhism as a lay person, part 2. I'm sure you're sick of the 5 precepts, but too bad we're going to look at it again. Then we're going to look at this story called the Two Acrobats, and then we're going to look a bit into Buddhism and society. Okay, the 5 precepts. As I mentioned just now, they are our protection, but they are more than that. There's this story told during the Buddha's time about the two acrobats. What happens is this. Once upon a time, a master bamboo acrobat and his young assistant began making preparations for a show in the marketplace. It was to be a balancing act high above the ground and quite dangerous. However, these acrobats stood to make a lot of money because the crowd started to gather quite excitedly. So the master and his assistant began to climb up the wires and poles high above the crowd. This is a picture I couldn't find exactly an acrobat and his assistant, but this is basically what I mean. They have these poles and they balance and then they do acrobatic tricks high up above the ground. So the master said to his assistant, "You watch out for me and I'll watch out for you. Then watching over each other, we'll perform our acts safely, then come down and receive our rewards." So the master said to his assistant, "You watch out for me, I'll watch out for you." But the young assistant said, "No, master, you watch out for yourself and I'll watch out for myself. And then watching out for ourselves, we'll perform our acts safely and then come down and receive our rewards." So the assistant said the opposite. The assistant said, "No, you look after yourself, I'll look after myself." So who was right? The master saying to watch out for each other, or the assistant saying to watch out for themselves? So the master said, "I watch out for you, you watch out for me." The assistant said, "No, you watch out yourself, I watch out for myself." So which is right? So who said the master is right? So who said the assistant is right? The rest of you? Not sure. Okay, the assistant was right. So congratulations. The thing is that how can we watch out for others if we cannot watch out for ourselves first? We have to watch out for ourselves first before we can watch out for others. Right? So this is what the Buddha said. How does one watch out after oneself? Through pursuing the practice, through developing it, through devoting oneself to it. This is how, when watching after oneself, one watches after others. I mean, it makes quite logical sense, right? If you can't even keep your precepts yourself, you can't even practice yourself, you don't even go to talks, you don't even know what is the Dharma yourself, how are you going to take care of others in the Buddhist sense? So you must be able to practice yourself first, be able to keep the precepts, do a bit of meditation, know a bit of Dharma, and then only can you be an example and guide others. So how does one watch after others? Through the practice of harmlessness, compassion, kindness, and sympathy. So through this is how, when watching after others, one watches after ourselves. Okay, so the Buddha said, when watching after oneself, one watches after others. When watching after others, one watches after oneself. There's an actual sutta called the Bamboo Acrobat Sutta, which tells this story in the Samyutta Nikaya. So the 5 precepts is their protection, but they are more than that. They are the protection of others too. This is what we mean when the precepts protect ourselves as well as others. For example, abstain from harming and killing. When we keep this precept, we ensure the safety and lives of all beings. When others keep the precepts, they ensure the safety and lives of other beings as well. You see what I mean? When we keep the precepts, when we don't harm and kill, it means that other beings are safe from us. We do not harm and kill other beings. So other beings are safe from our negative actions. When other beings do not harm or kill, that means we are safe from their actions. That means we are safe from other beings harming and killing us. So when people keep the first precept, it means that the safety and lives of all beings are protected. So likewise, when we keep the second precept of abstaining from taking what is not given, when others keep this precept to abstain from taking what is not given, it means the livelihood and possession of others are protected. If we don't cheat, we don't steal, other people's possessions are safe from us, right? And if other people also do not steal, do not cheat, our livelihood and our possessions are also safe. Likewise, for the third precept, abstain from sexual misconduct. If we don't fool around, other husbands, wives, other families are safe from this kind of suffering. And if other husbands and wives don't fool around with our partners, our families are also safe. So, people keeping the third precept to abstain from sexual misconduct means that the happiness and unity of families are protected. Similarly, abstaining from lying and false speech. We do not tell lies, we do not deceive people, we do not spread rumors, we do not slander, we do not backstab. And if others also do not do such things, it means that the integrity and security of our society are likewise protected. So as you can see, if we keep these precepts, if more people keep these precepts, our societies will be quite a lot better. I mean, the safety and lives of beings will be better, the livelihood and possessions of people will be better, the happiness and unity of families will be better, the integrity and security of society will be better. And finally, the last one, abuse, to abstain from the abuse of intoxicants and drugs. This protects all of the above. If people drink, take drugs and all that, all these things will be in danger. They can endanger the safety and lives of beings, they can endanger the livelihood and possessions of others, they may endanger the happiness and unity of other people's families, and also the integrity and security of society. People keeping the fifth precept to abstain from the abuse of intoxicants and drugs, all these things are also being protected. So you can see how in Buddhism the precepts are designed not only as a means of training ourselves, not only as a means of protecting ourselves, it is also a means of helping and protecting society. This is a very cohesive means of practice of morality. Practice for our own development, for our own protection, and also for society. Okay, as you can see, all this is a two-way street. We protect others through keeping the precepts. Other people protect us through their keeping the precepts. So therefore in Buddhism, it is never a one-way street. There are always reciprocal responsibilities between people, groups of people, and society as a whole. You can see in Buddhism, many things are reciprocal. Many things have reciprocal responsibilities. It is not just for ourselves. A lot of it in Buddhism is responsibilities. That's why compassion, harmlessness is very important in Buddhism, because by practicing harmlessness and compassion, you help to ensure that you are responsible for the well-being of other sentient beings also. So one very important teaching in Buddhism, which explains all this in very great detail, is called the Sigalovada Sutta. This is known as a code of ethics for the lay people. It's in this book, for those of you who have already. I put it very much in detail in this book, The Life of Blessings. I will just go through briefly, because it's already in my book, so you can read it. I don't really want to read out from my book right now, but just to go through with it. It spells out the reciprocal relationships between different groups of people in our society. The first group is children and parents. So in the Sigalovada Sutta, it tells us how children should treat their parents. So for example, by supporting their parents when necessary, helping them in their business or at work, keeping the family together, being worthy of their inheritance, doing charitable acts in memory of departed parents and relatives. Then the reciprocal relationships of parents towards their children is to teach their children how to be better people by restraining their children from doing wrong, encouraging them to do what is right, having them trained in the profession, and during the Buddha's time, sometimes also now, by helping or giving advice in the choice of a suitable marriage partner. Because sometimes nowadays even people, they get married to the wrong partner, but when you're in it, it is hard to tell. Like some people, it's quite obvious that it's a wrong match. The husband or wife is wrong for them. It's only sometimes your parents can see this clearly. So it is a parent's responsibility to give advice in such cases of, for example, marriage for their children. And also one of the responsibilities is to hand over the inheritance at a proper time. Because I think sometimes you can see, even today in some newspapers, all these children, they fight over their inheritance because simply their parents didn't do a good job. They die without having a clear-cut will, without leaving clear-cut instructions. And because they failed in their duty of handing over their inheritance at a proper time, and that leads to the children all fighting over the property, suing each other. It's quite ugly and it's quite sad. So these are the responsibilities of the parents towards their children. Again, it's reciprocal. Children to parents, parents to children. I'm going to pick on this point by encouraging them to do what is right. The reason is because it is important, very important for Buddhist parents to guide their children. This is a great failing in many Buddhist families today. A lot of Buddhist parents, they just leave their children to go and follow whatever teachings they want, to do whatever they want. They don't really guide their children properly. So last year I was asked to give a sharing on this topic, how Buddhist parents should guide their children. So this is what I want to share with you, because I think some of you may have children or relatives or nieces or nephews. Maybe you can advise your relatives along these lines if they are Buddhist. So as Buddhist parents or parents to be, we have a duty to bring our children on the correct path as soon as possible. Don't leave it too late, because I'm sure some of you know you leave it too late. When your children become teens, 20s, it's already too late. If they followed a certain teaching when they are in their teens or 20s, it's too late. When the branch already grown in a bad way, you cannot bend it back. So if possible, try to guide them on the correct path as soon as possible. Why? Well, obviously, to avoid them straying onto the wrong path, and to train them to cultivate good habits from young. Once they have bad habits from young, difficult to change. So try to cultivate the good habits from young. In which case, higher probability that they will grow up into responsible and mature adults. In which case, then it will be easier for them to practice the Dharma as they grow older. I'm sure for all of us as Buddhist parents, we would like our children at least to follow the Dharma, if possible. I mean, they will have their own free will, but we should at least give them a chance to learn about the Dharma. And then if they learn from an early age, it will be easier for them to practice as they grow older. I mean, for example, myself, I came into Buddhism very late, only about 5 years ago. Now I'm 50, so 45 years old, then I get into Buddhism. But during that time, from young to 45, you make a lot of mistakes. You get into a lot of problems, you get into a lot of difficulties. But if you know the Dharma from young, chances are you won't make so many mistakes. The Dharma can be actually an effective guide during your youth and during your adult age. So as Buddhist parents, we don't want our children to go through all these painful mistakes, right? We want them to have as good a life as they possibly can. So therefore, it would be advisable for them to at least learn some Dharma for the teachings, to guide them to be good and responsible adults, and for them to practice the Dharma as they grow older. But actually there's a more selfish reason. When our children stay out of trouble, we also have less trouble, right? If our children get into trouble, 1,001 things. So if they stay out of trouble, we also less problems. Okay, how do we do this? We have to point out the similarities and differences between Buddhism and the other religions. Some people don't like this, but really no choice. Because if they do not know the similarities and the differences, how are they going to decide for themselves? If they only know one teaching, how are they going to know about the other teachings? And in which case, how are they going to decide? If they know only one teaching, they don't know about the other teachings, then they can only see from one eye. So you must be able to help them to know the Buddhist teachings if possible. So this is necessary for their own knowledge. This will also allow them to make their own decisions regarding which religion to eventually follow in an educated way and with a clear mind. Of course, we cannot force them to follow Buddhism. We cannot force them to follow any particular religion or teaching, but at least they will be able to make this decision in an educated way, rather than just know one teaching and then they close their minds after that. Okay, all faiths are similar in that they preach goodness and love. But the emphasis and approach taken by different religions can be very different. These are some points to consider which we may want to bring to attention of our children. Number one, being a good person as opposed to blind faith and worship. As many of you may know, some religions place blind faith and worship above everything else. Being a good person, respect for your parents, everything is secondary. They have these teachings because being a good person will not lead to heaven if that person is not of the same religion. For some religions, only faith and worship according to that religion will lead to heaven. Everyone else, good and bad, goes to hell according to those religions. But then we have to point this out to our children. We have to point out that Buddhism places a person's behavior, places morality and practice above faith and worship. Morality, practice and behavior is above faith and worship in Buddhism. Being a good person is more important in Buddhism. Faith and worship is secondary in Buddhism. Blind faith and unthinking worship is discouraged in Buddhism. Asking questions to gain knowledge and direct experience to gain understanding is what Buddhism encourages, not blind faith and unquestioning worship. The other point you may consider to bring to the attention of your children is unconditional love as opposed to conditional love. Many religions have the concept that they must belong to and have absolute and unquestioning faith in that particular religion before they are saved by their God. If not, they will be punished by that God in an eternal hell. This is called conditional. It is not true love, it is not compassion, because there are conditions, because there are strings attached. In other words, I will love you if you do this, if you do that. If not, I will not love you. Buddhism, on the other hand, teaches unconditional love or condition. I'm sure all of you know the term metta. Metta is a kind of love that a mother has for a child, that no matter what her child does or what her child turns out to be, she will always love that child. Now, this is a kind of love and compassion that Buddhism encourages us to have. It is unconditional, without any strings attached. And not only that, it is to be practiced towards all beings without exception. So you can see the difference between conditional love and unconditional love in Buddhism. The third point is tolerance as opposed to intolerance. Some religions are highly exclusive in nature. For example, followers of these exclusive religions forbid or strongly discourage their followers from reading books or learning about other religions, visiting places of worship of other religions, even attending wakes or funerals of other religions. They even discourage their followers from mixing around with people of other religions. I think last year our Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong spoke about this, that it's quite sad that people of some of these religions, even their parents pass away, they don't even attend their wakes or don't even attend their funerals because their parents' wakes and funerals are Buddhist. They are not the same religion that their children have been converted to. So this is something as parents we do not wish to see. I mean, we've taken care of our children from infant to youth, even to adults. And then even our own funeral, they do not even attend. Even our Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said this is the ultimate act of unfilial piety. So this is something we have to keep in mind. We may want to bring to the attention of our children. Again, this is not knocking or degrading or talking bad about other religions, but these are the facts which we must bring to our attention of our family for our own and for their own peace and happiness. Okay, Buddhism does not have such restrictions. In fact, we encourage each other to learn about other religions, because if you only know about Buddhism, you do not know about other religions, it's not so good. You can only really truly appreciate Buddhism if you know also about the other religions. So we are really not afraid of Buddhists learning other religions, because this is how you gain an understanding and better appreciation of our own Buddhist religion. So once we know about other religions, we have a better understanding of other religions. This way, social harmony and cohesiveness is maintained. Because like some religions, they only know their own religion. Other religions, they don't want to know. In which case, how can we really have true social harmony and cohesion? Because these people, they only know their religions, then they talk bad about the other religions, as you know, the recent case. They talk bad, they degrade, humiliate other religions. That is because they do not know the other religions. That is why they do such things. And in the end, what happens? All this big hoo-ha, even ministers have to step in, the newspapers have to step in, ISD have to step in. So this is a fact of life which we must keep in mind. So the fourth point is the open-minded teachings as opposed to dogmatic beliefs. So a few religions preach highly dogmatic beliefs such that modern science and knowledge is taught as false because modern science and knowledge for certain points contradict the teachings in their ancient books. These religions teach that only what is contained in their books is true. Everything is false. And this is despite all the evidence to the contrary from modern science and hard facts. That means it can be proven to them that evolution is a fact of science. The age of the universe, the age of the earth is a fact of science. Geology, carbon dating, fossil records is a fact of science. But they say no, because it's simply contrary to what is contained in their own holy books. Buddhism, on the other hand, is open and adaptable, and in fact very much in harmony with modern science. So, for example, while some religions preach that everything is created by a God and that evolution is false, Buddhism recognizes the scientific evidence and the hard facts of evolution. So Buddhism does not seek to twist or distort modern science and knowledge to suit its own teachings. What is important in Buddhism is the truth and the ability to see and understand the reality and nature of our own existence. So we do not distort science, we do not say it's false, but we adapt and go forward from there. So just to sum up, if we as Buddhist parents do not make the effort to teach our children our own religion, then we are just simply stepping aside to allow the people of other religions to teach our children their religion. As you can see, this is a great feeling among many Buddhist parents today. Why? Because they themselves do not know the Dharma. So it's really good that more and more people such as yourselves take the effort, take the time to learn about the Dharma. Because if you do not know, how can you teach your children? Impossible, right? You cannot teach your children what you do not know. So I'm really happy to see more and more people, coming to these kind of classes here in other temples, attending talks. But we must do our part also. Like I mentioned, we must learn the Buddha's teachings. Take the effort, come to talks, come to lessons, read. We must also practice the Buddha's teachings. If you don't practice, then what's the point? Then how can we be an example to our children? Because children aren't stupid, no? If you say something but you do something else, you can't blame them. They will see for themselves. So it is important really to practice what you preach. If you tell your children to keep the 5 precepts, you yourself should keep the 5 precepts. You yourself must try your best to keep the 5 precepts if you want your children to keep the 5 precepts. If you expect your children to keep the 5 precepts. So as Buddhist parents, we must be the example we want our children to follow. So this is really what we must do as Buddhist parents. Not really to learn the Buddha's teachings, but to practice it and to be the example we want for our children to follow. Finally, sometimes we are being pestered. Our children are being pestered. Please come to our place of worship. Let me share with you our teachings, etc., etc. I think all of you know what I mean. So how do we politely decline such things? What we can just say to these people who try to convert us, who try to convert our children, is to say, fine, if you want me to go to your place of worship, come to our temple also. If you want me to listen to your teachings, you must give me a chance to tell you my teachings, right? So, this is a good way to, in fact, defend ourselves, because from practice, I'm sure you all know, if these people ask you to go to their place of worship, you say, fine, you come to my place of worship. They will say, no way. I also had this experience. One of my friends say, hey, come on, I want to share with you my teachings. I said, can, I don't mind. But you must give me a chance to share with you, lah. Right? Fair, right? You share me, I share you, right? They say, oh, no. I tell you can already. I don't listen to what you want to tell me. So I said, you get lost in that case. Not fair, right? So in that case, you are justified to ask them to go and get lost. Right? Where got such thing? You want to tell me your teachings, then you don't want me to tell you what I believe in. Not fair, right? Then you tell me go and fly a kite, then they won't bug you anymore. So you can use this strategy. So this is a way to decline these people who are too pushy to ourselves and our children, who always try to convert us and who always try to convert our children. We just tell them, fine, we'll go to your place of worship if you come to our place of worship. We'll say, fine, we listen to your teachings if you also give us a chance to tell them about our own Buddhist teachings. Okay, I'll just run through the rest of it very quickly because this is all spelled out in my book. So the other group of society that have reciprocal responsibilities towards each other are students and teachers, husbands and wives. How a husband should treat his wife with courtesy, showing her respect, being faithful to her, sharing authority, providing her jewelry and gifts. Then how a wife should treat her husband, of course all these things which is spelled out in my book. But this is actually quite radical coming from the Buddha. This is one of the evidence that the Buddha actually had this policy of sexual equality. Because in India at that time, the women were very much downtrodden, very much second-class citizens compared to the men. So this was quite a radical teaching that a husband also had responsibilities to his wife. Not only the wife has responsibilities to the husband. So one of the things is that by providing her with jewelry and gifts. Why is that so? Because this is actually a form of savings. In the Buddha's time, they didn't have banks, no financial institutions, no stock market, no insurance. Their wealth carried on their own person. That means the husband will buy gold jewelry, gold necklaces, gold earrings, all that, give to the wife. And if anything happens to the husband, this is what the wife will survive on, to keep her going. That means it's not just simply providing her with jewelry and gifts, it's actually a deeper meaning than that. It's actually an insurance policy for the wife if anything were to happen to her husband. By providing her with jewelry and gifts, I explained that in the modern context, in the ancient times, the husband would buy the wife jewelry and gifts. In the modern context, the husband should buy insurance for the wife, for the family. So friends and associates, employees and employers, employers and employees, spiritual teachers and lay followers. Okay, the Buddha recognized that not everyone is ready or even suited for a life centered on intensive spiritual practice. He recognized that not everybody is going to renounce and become a monk. In fact, he recognized that not everybody is going to follow his teachings. It's actually the minority of people who will sincerely follow the Buddha's teachings. That's why he said that for the people with very little dust in their eyes are the minority, very, very few people. So most people are content with being part of a household, running their businesses, taking part in social activities, having a good time. The Buddha said there's nothing wrong with people enjoying their families, their material possessions and taking pleasure in life. But he stressed that the pursuit of such happiness should not be at the expense of others, because such happiness will be short-lived and lead ultimately to our own suffering. Because if we pursue happiness, but in the process of pursuing our own happiness, we harm others, we cheat people, for example, like some of these lawyers, they cheat people, some of these business people, they use unethical means to grow rich. At the end of the day, if not in this life, it will be in a future life that it will lead to their own suffering. But it is only by helping and bringing happiness unconditionally to others that our own happiness will not only be preserved but maintained for a long time to come. This is quite obvious because during our pursuit of our own happiness, we do good things to others. Doesn't this mean that we are generating positive karma for ourselves? So when we pursue our own happiness, we do good things for others, we practice